Hey my friend, I'm Marcus with the IndieMusicLab.com. So today we are going to talk about the verse 2 problem. Now first let me address and clarify exactly what I mean by the verse 2 problem. The verse 2 problem is your listener is interested in the song and continues listening from the intro through verse 1 through chorus 1. And then what happens at the end of chorus 1? You go into verse 2 and we start to lose interest as the listener. This happens because there isn't enough novelty happening. It's the same as verse 1. So then as music creators, as songwriters, as producers, our job is to keep the listener engaged, and verse 2 is a critical juncture for that, because if we don't watch ourselves, if we're not paying attention, it's very easy to make verse 2 sound exactly like verse 1. So in today's video, this is going to be super fun. I'm just going to share 5 ways to make your second verse of your songs more interesting, and I'm going to use real examples from real songs. So here we go. Here are 5 ways to solve the verse 2 problem. Solution number 1 to the verse 2 problem is the most understood, the most obvious, but there is a little backdoor sneaky move here that you might not have thought about. But anyway, solution number 1 is simply add more instrumentation in verse 2. Most basic trick in the book, right? Verse 1, it's maybe more stripped down, and then verse 2, you might bring in some drums, you might bring in some guitars. We've all heard this a million times. Now, like I said, there is a little sneaky backdoor thing that you might not have thought of, and that is when you are approaching verse 2 from this perspective of, okay, let's make it more interesting, let's add more instrumentation. It's not always about adding more instrumentation. First, think in reverse. Can you take away something in verse 1 so that automatically when you get to verse 2, then you feel the lift? The better you get at, production and especially mixing, it's like the back half of the music making process. The better you get at that, the more you will find yourself deleting things. Not because they don't sound good, but because you want to wait to bring it in until later. So that's the little sneaky backdoor thing. It's like, don't always be like, okay, that's verse 1, and I need to level up and add more instrumentation in verse 2, so let me just, go through a bunch of sounds and add more layers of drums. It's like, maybe you just want to remove the drums in verse 1, or remove the bass, or remove those stacked guitars, and instead keep it more minimal, and then in verse 2, keep it more interesting and add that lift by perhaps just keeping it the way it is. Now, I just want to give you a quick example of a real song in the real world of how this is what happens. Verse 1 is more minimal, and then verse 2, you layer in and you add instrumentation to make verse 2 more interesting.
I am not the only traveler who is not repaid his debt. When the night was full of terror and your eyes were filled with tears.
All right, solution number 2 to the verse 2 problem is one of my favorite moves, and it is this. Make verse 2 the quietest part of the song. This is such a brilliant move. It sounds so awesome. It's the perfect place to completely go to, that quietest part of your song, because what has happened? Intro, verse 1, chorus 1, you've started to kind of build the song up, right? You started maybe at a energy 3 out of 10, and then you go to a 4 out of 10 in the pre-chorus, and then 6 out of 10 in, chorus 1. And then if you drop especially the beginning of verse 2, if you drop that all the way down to a 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10, to where that is the quietest and lowest energy part of the song up to that point, it just works. It really is a cool technique, and I'm just going to give you a quick example of that from one of my favorite artists, Andrew Bell. Have a listen to this. Okay, solution number 3 to the verse 2 problem is make the verse 2 melody entirely different than verse 1. So pretty self-explanatory, not a whole lot to go into. You can often keep the same chord progression, although that would be just another bonus thing to add as well. It isn't one of the 5 solutions that I have on this list, but you could also change the chord progression, and that in of itself might give you enough variation and change for verse 2. But in this case, I'm talking about just the melody. Change the vocal melody and make it completely different than verse 1. And here is an example of that in a song.
Talk you down, wasted on the couch. Say what you're feeling now. Don't hold back. What's there to cry about? It's such a shame to see a face like yours fall to pieces on the bathroom floor. We can stay up all night till you're sure.
All right, number 4 is probably my favorite. I love this one. This one is just brilliant, and it is keep verse 2 unexpectedly short. This is a fantastic songwriting and arrangement move. It's unexpected. You expect verse 2 to be longer, but instead you come right out of chorus 1, you go to verse 2, and then before you know it, bam, you're back in chorus 2. It's that unexpectedness that really is so powerful about this. So you don't want to do this on every song, right? But just on a song here and there, if you can really surprise the listener and come right back to the chorus sooner than expected, it just works beautifully. Have a listen to this.
Forgive my bad love, forgive my mind, 'cause since I do know all of my life, 'cause all my love was wasted on a couple bad nights, and I've said I'll be alright for the last damn time. Don't make a mess of my love. I know I read the room wrong, alright. Won't you let me open up sometime? Don't make a mess of my love. Yeah, don't make a mess of my love.
All right, one more to go. Before we get to number 5, though, I want to give you a gift, and it is my free guide, The 7 Steps to a Killer Indie Song. This guide will give you the framework, the step-by-step plan to write, record, produce, mix your next song from start to finish. It's 100% free, and if you like the songs that I have been illustrating throughout this video, this is the type of indie genre that I teach. If you are into this kind of music, then you're gonna love this free guide. You can just find the link in the description. Again, it is 100% free. All right, let's move on to number 5. All right, solution number 5 to the verse 2 problem. This one's really interesting, and it is skip verse 2 altogether. Now, what's really cool about this technique is if you do it right, your listener isn't even gonna think about it that there's not a verse 2, which kind of proves that you don't need a verse 2. You can go somewhere else. You could go straight into, a bridge. You could have the intro, verse, chorus, and then go into like a weird interlude. You could completely change keys and go to a new place. You could go into like a bridge type of vibe for the next part. You could go into a B chorus. You could go into a C chorus. You could go so many different places. You don't have to go into verse 2, especially if there is already, if you have the motifs, if you have enough repetition in the song that the melodies have caught on to the listener, you don't always need to go to verse 2. Sometimes you can go to a different place. And that is exactly what is happening in this song that I'm about to show you. Have a listen.
Happiness hit her like a train on a track. Run fast for your mother, run fast for your father, run for your children, for your sisters and brothers. You're like and I know
So thank you so much for watching this video. Again, if you want to dive deeper into how to make indie music and you want a step-by-step plan to write and produce your next song, go and check out my free guide, The 7 Steps to a Killer Indie Song. Link is in the description. It's really going to help you out. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it helpful, and go have an amazing rest of your day. Bye.